So Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag is getting a remake, according to Kotaku. Kotaku claims this has come from Ubisoft insiders that prefer to remain anonymous, and Ubisoft have outwardly declined to comment on this themselves. So that's the news. There could be a remake for Black Flag coming very soon. In today's video, I want to talk about my thoughts on this. What do I think the remake will entail if it is real, and why I think they're doing this. So if you like what you see and you want to stay up to date with everything Assassin's Creed, then press that subscribe button. Let's get into this. So to start with, when I saw this news, I thought that cannot be real. Surely not. The fourth game is just a random one in the series that's getting a remake? I was like, no, surely not. But according to the leak, this is something that's happening. So firstly, I think it's going to be one of the games that releases on the Assassin's Creed Infinity live service. I think Ubisoft are probably going to be experimenting with different types of games, and remakes are going to be one of those things. They know that Black Flag was a very successful Assassin's Creed game. It was the first AC game to market itself off of something that wasn't just Assassins. All of its predecessors were marketed and sold well because of the Assassin fantasy, where of course Black Flag still contains the Assassin fantasy, but it was marketing itself off of the pirate fantasy, be a pirate. And I think it was the first game in the series to make Ubisoft realize, you know what, we can actually market and sell a lot of copies of Assassin's Creed if we delve into these historical settings that people want to play and make that the focus rather than the assassins. So looking back at Black Flag, Ubisoft probably think, well, this is something we want to continue doing moving forwards, that being marketing games and making many sales based off of a fantasy of something people want to play rather than the assassins. So when it comes to market data as well as the direction Ubisoft want to keep going in, Black Flag makes sense. Pirate fantasy, that's just as popular as ever. And when experimenting with many different games coming to this Assassin's Creed Infinity live service hub, why not remake one of the older popular games? Now, one thing I want to make clear is there's a big difference between remaster and remake. Now, according to this leak, it's a remake, which means they're going to rebuild the game from the ground up. A remaster would be just fixing some bugs, enhancing the visuals, and that sort of thing. A good example of an Assassin's Creed remaster would be the Ezio Collection, as well as AC3 Remastered. But according to this leak, we're getting something way more than that, something we haven't had in the series before, a full-on remake. So does this mean they're going to re-record voice lines, recompose the score for the game's soundtrack? I don't know. I personally don't think it will be that much of a grand scale because, you know, the voice lines and the music and all that is perfect. Do you really need to remake that? Not really. If it's great, why change it? But I do think if this remake is fully legit, it will be making the world way more expansive. It will be doing things like adding underwater exploration like it was in Odyssey, Origins, and Valhalla. There were underwater segments within Black Flag, but they were story-centric and you couldn't just dive underwater at will. I think it will be overhauling the naval combats. You know, they probably looked at the development for Skull and Bones and thought, you know what, with these new things we've implemented in Skull and Bones, imagine how cool that would have been if we had that stuff back when we made Black Flag, and they're probably looking at those features and adding them to the remake. I think if done well, this could be a way more in-depth version of Black Flag that we know. You know, when you have memories of old games when you were a kid, you think back to those games when not having played them for years and years, and you imagine them to be this really realistic, amazing, visceral game. And then you go back to play it after years, and it's just not like that at all. It looks dated, and it doesn't feel how you remember. This could be the version of Black Flag that we imagine. I'm 22 now, but when I played Black Flag for the first time, I was 13 or 12 or something like that. Now, I have played Black Flag recently, but if I hadn't, I'd probably imagine the game to be looking way better and playing way better than it actually does. Not that it plays bad. So this remake could be what people have imagined for years, if that makes sense. It could be a fully realized version of the game in modern technology. When it comes to modern technology with Assassin's Creed, that begs the question, will they incorporate RPG elements into Black Flag? Will the parkour be completely different than Black Flag's parkour and now be how it is in the most recent AC games? If that's the case, then some may say they're making the game worse. That's all subjective, of course, but it is worth asking how far will this remake go and how many aspects of later games will they incorporate into the remake? I definitely think the world will be something like 5 times bigger than it was in the original Black Flag. I think the world will be pretty much the same when it comes to layout and what is in the world, but there'll be more caves. Again, there'll be more underwater things to explore. The cities will be bigger, meaning their internal layout might be different. I also think there'll be way more ship customization, maybe fully changing every aspect of your ship more than you could with the original game. They're looking at something great and they're thinking, okay, how can we take that but make it in today's age in the way that we know with all these new skills we have and all this new technology we have? Another thing the leak states is that this game is probably a few years off. They're in the early stages, they've probably conceptualized it and how they want to remake it, and maybe they're in the planning stages, but it's probably something like 4 to 5 years off. By then, I'm assuming we're going to have a much more overhauled in-game engine for Assassin's Creed. It's only speculation, but I think AC Codename Red is going to be the first game that incorporates completely new visuals, new gameplay systems, and stuff like that to set it aside from the last games we've recently had. So by then, the game's probably going to look like something we haven't even seen in the Assassin's Creed series before, which could be a good thing if their overhaul of the system in years to come actually makes the game good and is better than what we've already got. Will they overhaul things like parkour? Probably. They'll probably update it to the sort of parkour we're going to get in AC Codename Red, again with the visuals. What is combat going to be like? Again, I think it's probably going to be exactly like however Codename Red's combat is going to be, just because I think that game will be the closest game to the Black Flag remake that we're going to get when it comes to release date. I'm not sure if they're going to fully incorporate RPG elements into the remake, just because they know how beloved Black Flag is, and if they start bringing in RPG elements from games that people didn't like as much, they might start to receive some flack. That being said, it is a remake, so they could do that for sure. But if I'm to take a stab in the dark, that's quite a good Assassin's Creed pun actually, I think that they'll retain similar combat, similar parkour, and it will be more of an action adventure than it is an RPG. Overall, I think Ubisoft are seeing this as an opportunity to make a ton more money. It's a really popular game, why not remake it but add way more microtransactions? It can be a great way to promote the AC Infinity live service, which also in turn promotes all the other games releasing on that live service. Remaking something is a safe bet when the original sold so well, so it's kind of a win-win, I think, for Ubisoft, and that's the way they see it. They're hedging their bets and saying, all right, let's make a game that we know 100% is going to make us some major profits. As we know from prior reports, Ubisoft has been on the rocks when it comes to investors pulling out, cancelling games, and losing money overall, so they want to do things that are safe. They want to make a lot of money, but they don't want to take too many risks, and an Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag remake could be just that, and I think that's exactly what it is. Now, overall, I liked Black Flag. It wasn't my favorite in the series, but I did like the game, so would I enjoy playing a remake? For sure, I'd enjoy playing a remake as long as it's good, as long as they don't fill it with microtransactions, completely make the world empty like Odyssey. If they don't make those mistakes and they make the world engaging, not massive for the sake of being massive, if they don't ruin a good game, then yeah, I'd love to play it. But there could be a big chance that what they do is they open up this game to be something exactly like Odyssey, where the world is completely devoid of life. There's only side quests to do that are just kind of bandit camps and clearing out caves for not much purpose. If they stick to the main story, at least we know the writing is going to be solid, but I just hope the gameplay doesn't suffer just for the sake of making the world massive, making it bigger than it really needs to be. I always say Assassin's Creed Valhalla could have been such a good game if it was about 20 hours long, but they dragged it out to be about 100 hours long or around that, and it just made it a slogfest, so I just really don't want them to do that with a beloved game that we already have and love. You know, don't ruin something that we've already got that doesn't need ruining. Some would say it doesn't need remaking. It's as good today as it ever was. And I could agree with that for sure. But I think, again, if the passion's there, if the desire to make something good even better is the pure intent for this remake, then go ahead and do it. I'm going to play it and I'm going to be happy. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments and we'll get a discussion going and build that AC community. Do you think it's going to be a good thing, or do you think this is going to be absolute shit? If you enjoyed this video and you want to stay up to date with everything Assassin's Creed Mirage, Codename Red, just Assassin's Creed in general, then feel free to press that subscribe button. I love you guys, mate. The father of understanding guide us. I will see you soon. Goodbye.